Uh, infidels. Well, um, yeah, interesting story about that. Right after 9/11, I kept seeing these news reports from people in other parts of the world saying death to the infidel, death to the infidel. And I was like, okay, that's, I guess, we were all kind of learning about all of this, you know, all together. And so a good friend of mine is a missionary in Middle Eastern countries. And so he was over in the States and we were talking about that. I said, would, is that just Americans? Is it Westerners? So he kind of gave me the primer on what that meant. And he said, basically, anybody that's for fundamentalists, for hardcore fundamentalists, anybody in the West, and that includes people who are Muslims. That would include like Muhammad Ali and Louis Farrakhan and people who think they're safe, but if you're not Arabic and reading the Quran in Arabic, and from the certain bloodline and all of that, this is for this particular sect of Islam. They're coming after you too, and you just be last. You'll be used until you, and then you'll be last. And so I started thinking about that, and I was like, wow. So, um, so it really is kind of a culture war. And then I started thinking about who the infidels might be, and I'm like, well, that I guess that'd be Frank Sinatra, Doris Day, and it would be Muhammad Ali, or Cash. They'd probably still see him as Cassius Clay. Anyway, that just sort of like sent me down the rabbit hole of um, all of these people that you know major minor players or whatever, but Western culture wouldn't be the same without them. And I think that that for me it distilled. I don't write songs to educate other people. Most of the time, I'm writing them to educate me. Um, and so I wanted to get a handle and get my arms around kind of the basis of Western culture. And for me the best way to do it was just a laundry list of people. And varying, different people from TV and music and politics and all of these in different eras, um, and put that together as sort of a collage. And then let's stand back and look at that and decide: do we like that? Do we like the fact that all those people existed and did what they did? Is that important? Is that important to the world? For me, the answer was yes. Um, I'm been a very unapologetically pro-American, pro-Western, um, and I think that um, that for me was a kind of a teaching moment for me. Like, yeah, look, we need all these people. Yeah, and there's the bad stuff too. You get the byproducts, and the negative byproducts of anything, of any kind of culture. But on balance, I'm glad we had Doris Day. On balance, I'm glad we had Frank Sinatra. On balance, I'm glad we had Little Kim and Eminem and the Beatles and Elvis and um, Teddy Danson and Randy Newman and and on and on and on. Susan Smith, nah, I don't know about that, but um, Jeffrey Dahmer. These are byproducts that you get with this hodgepodge of freedom, essentially, of letting people kind of determine their free will and act in their own self interests and self determination. And sometimes um, things go awry, and you have criminals out of that. But that's what Infidels was, and I put myself in there at the end to say, hey, I'm part of this too. I'm part of the. I'm if this is a problem, I'm part of the problem willingly. I'm making records and I'm going out there and fully participating in Western civilization and Western culture. I want to come to your town and sing. Um, I'm trying to live on my own terms. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. So in that regard, I don't want anybody from any religion telling me what to do, Christianity included. So in that regard, I'm fully an infidel. And so, in fact, I've got a shirt that a buddy of mine got me. I should have worn it for this. That's got infidel on it. And so, guilty. I mean, we'll just have to kind of stand and be counted for where we are. uh, on the spectrum. And I think, a lot of people have tried to equivocate and apologize for the West and this and that. And I don't. Trust me, I'm enough of a history buff to know, it's a bloody history, and there are flaws, and there are major, major problems, et cetera, et cetera. On balance, glad we got Frank Sinatra. Glad we got Elvis. You know, glad we got Aretha Franklin. Glad we got Ray Charles. I think that's a pretty good trade-off, in the big scheme of things. And that's the story behind Infidels. And I it was the quick story. It was the very last song written for the American Dreams record. It was recorded and mixed in one day. The musicians, I believe it was Ken Lewis on drums, Gary Burnett playing guitar, I was playing piano, Matt Pearson playing bass, and that's it. That's all that's on it. It's on the track. Um, Gary played a one take guitar solo, and then I played a piano thing that probably wasn't one take. But I sang it, I did all the background vocals, and I think Jordan Richter mixed it that night. That's the version that's on the record. I actually rewrote one of the choruses later, and that's the version that's out now. And Paul Salveson mixed that, so it's been remixed and reimagined. One of the choruses was rewritten. But yeah, it happened really fast, and like I said, in one day, and then went on the record. And it kind of it gave the record a bite and an edge that it needed to really. There was another song in there called Happy Ending, which wasn't one of my best. It was actually the first song recorded for the record, but it really wasn't one of the best songs on the record. And Infidels came in and just blew it away. um, I highly recommend making your songs compete with each other, by the way. It's good for you. It's good for you as a creative person, um, to make yourself compete with yourself to get better. But anyway, that's how Infidels happened. Um, I've gotten death threats over it. I've gotten beheading threats over it. Um, I've gotten the obligatory racist comments from people who are pseudo intellectuals, are not even that close to intellectualism. But it also got me on a show called Red Eye. I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And I met and befriended a guy named Greg Gutfeld. And I just thought those guys were so funny and right in the wheelhouse of where my humor was. And so, it's been an interesting song for me. I do get requests for it from time to time, and very often I cannot remember all the people in it. There's a lot of names. And again, when I wrote it, I wasn't even thinking about playing it live. Probably have only played it live, a dozen times or whatever. It's not a regular in my set list unless it gets recorded, unless it gets requested. But it's been, like I said, been an interesting song for me. It's put a little target on me, in good and bad ways, but I think you got to be honest in your songs, and you got to say the quiet part out loud. And that's what I was thinking. And I think that's what a lot of people were thinking. And if you're going to be any kind of songwriter worth account, um, worth the snot, you've got to, you got to take those things that you're thinking as, oh man, should I say this? And yeah, you have to. That's like your job. And so Infidels is out there. There's a really great video that my manager Ed Nash did on it, and that's the story behind Infidels.